Hey guys, Thomas here with NeoSeeker here at E3 2018. I'm here with John, and he's going to give us a little bit more insight into Metro Exodus. John?
Metro Exodus is the third game in the series. Metro is a story-driven, post-apocalyptic Russian shooter, and the first two games in the series were very linear in structure, very crafted experiences that took the player through the life of Artyom, our main character, who's lived in the Moscow metro system most of his life. Basically, when the world blew up and created this post-apocalyptic wasteland, the only people that survived were managed to get down into the metro system in Moscow, which actually in real life the metro system in Moscow is built as a nuclear fallout shelter. And this new society formed down there, and the first two games were mostly about his struggles in life in the metro system, and about his friends and his family around him. But he's been told his entire life that everything outside of Moscow is gone. It's just blown up, it's irradiated, it's poisonous, nobody survived. And in Metro Exodus, we get to find out that that's not actually the case. And so Artyom boards a train, which they name the Aurora, with a group of Spartan soldiers who are his comrades. He's part of this elite military group, and the Rangers. They go on this epic year-long journey across Russia, and they're gonna see all four seasons. They're gonna see all sorts of new societies, new groups of people, new creatures, mutants, all sorts of landscapes. Lots of new content. One of the other big things that we're bringing to this franchise in Metro Exodus is this idea of open sandbox areas. Like I said, the previous games were very linear, so this is a very new thing for the series.
Yeah, so they even said dynamic weather and day-night cycles, right?
Yeah, so depending on the season in which you arrive in an area, there will be different weather, accordingly. And these things are dynamic, and the player can also sleep to advance time between day and night, and that will have impacts on gameplay and AI and how they behave, what they do during the day versus at night, which will allow the player to approach situations differently. And depending on how they want to play or how they want to approach a certain situation, the player can manipulate the world around them in order to approach that how they want to.
Yeah, there's always been a lot of choice in the Metro games. Same with this game, of course, right?
Yeah, definitely. We've always tried to make the Metro series really as immersive and realistic as possible. We want the player to step into the shoes of Artyom and become Artyom and shape who he is as an individual through the choices and actions on the part of the player.
Yeah, some of the returning characters I saw too, like his Anna, and then who else is returning for the new game?
Well, as you can see in the demo and the trailer that we're showing off here at E3, Anna is back. His wife, Miller, is back. He's the commander of the Spartan Order and also Anna's father, so Artyom's father-in-law. There are a number of Spartans on the team, and I think beyond that, we're not talking about any other returning characters yet. I think that players are going to have fun trying to figuring out for themselves who's back.
Yeah, and the game is you can't give it spoilers because the game's very story-driven.
Yeah. I mean, we don't want to get too much into the story, other than the motivation and kind of setting up the setting and what players can expect this game is going to be about.
Yeah, because let's talk a little bit about the dialogue.
It's the dialogue this time around. I mean, for all three Metro games, we've worked very closely with Dmitry Glukhovsky, the writer of the book series. Metro 2033 was based directly on his book of the same name. Metro Last Light, we worked with him to create a new story that followed Artyom's story, because his book Metro 2034 didn't quite follow Artyom, followed some other characters, and didn't really have a format that fit making into a video game. Yeah. And Dimitri's third book, Metro 2035, is kind of the precursor to Metro Exodus. The beginning of Metro 2035, the book, kind of picks up where we left off after the redemption ending of Metro Last Light, and at the end of the book 2035 is it kind of the beginning of Metro Exodus kind of leads into that story. So everything's all connected and very much collaborative work between our studio and Dimitri. And in Metro Exodus, because of the massive amount of scope that we're delivering to consumers, and the new open sandbox environments, there's a lot more opportunity for us to deliver a lot more story should players want to to experience it. And so this time around, I think the script is 2 times the size of the script from Metro 2033, Metro Last Light, and all the DLC combined. There's so much more content that we're putting into this, and there will be that core narrative thread that players can follow, but the players that really want to dig in deep and find out more about the characters that are going to be joining Artyom on this journey, the characters they're going to come across in the world, and just the world in general, there's going to be a lot more content for them.
Very cool. Let's talk a little bit about the gameplay, like the backpack and some of the improvements that actually help the game flow a little bit better, a little bit more enjoyable.
Sure. So we've tried to upgrade as many of the systems that we've had in previous Metro games as possible to account for this new open environment, all the freedom and choice and options that we're providing for players. It kind of required to that everything kind of go hand in hand for this. So one of the things we've done is we've completely rebuilt the weapon system from the ground up. Weapons are now modular. There's 5 hard points on every weapon, so you can swap out things like the barrel, stock, magazine. You can add attachments like scopes and lasers, things like that. And we wanted to make this available to players at any time. So the player, Artyom carries around his backpack. It's full of his stuff, his med packs, his filters, his ammunition, and his other weapons. And we wanted players to be able to customize things whenever they wanted. So this backpack allows for that. It allows for limited crafting of things like med packs and gas mask filters, throwable items. It allows players to configure their weapons. So if they approach a situation where they want to change their tactics, they can do that on the fly at any moment.
So for the ammunition economy now, that's kind of gone out of the game?
Yeah, the bullet economy that we had in previous games was something that was born out of the society that was created inside the Moscow Metro system. Outside of that society, it doesn't really make sense because there's no society that would have organized that. It's the wilderness, right? We don't have traders just like sitting out along the tracks waiting for Artyom to show up and trade with him, right? So the player has to now kind of create what he needs along the way.
It's very organic having the crafting system now.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have to scavenge for materials for these metals and chemicals and use them to create ammunition, med packs, gas mask filters, all those types of things. And when the player comes across like a safe house that has a workbench, then they'll have access to the full suite of customization that you have available, customizing armor, crafting all the ammo types, for all the weapons, whereas the backpack has limited versions of that because you're in the field and it's just a small backpack, right? So you come to these safe houses and you have the workbench where you have full customization, and you also have that's where the beds exist so that you can sleep and advance time between day and night cycles that we were talking about.
Can you tell us a little bit about the improvements on the engine?
Yeah, so obviously now that we're doing these big open environments, we need to do some things to the engine this time around. We've always tried to keep the engine as cutting edge as possible, if not meeting, then ideally exceeding what the competition is doing. So there's a number of things from lighting to 3D sound, to even AI systems. We've had to, particularly with AI, we've had to overhaul everything in order for the, human NPCs and for creatures in order to exist in these open environments realistically. Before, they basically, in in the linear design of previous games, if you think about it, really there were like rooms that you would move, one to the next, and in that room would exist some enemies, and they kind of stayed in that room. They never really moved anywhere else, and so that limited scope allowed us to have the systems work in a certain way. They were still very complex and very robust, but now they have to be able to move around in these big open spaces and interact with each other. We've set up more of a biome system, so there will be places where these groups of humans will hang out, or these creatures will live, sleep, hunt, whatever. And within their little areas, they tend to hang out. Sometimes they'll roam away, and if anything comes into their area, they'll defend it, interact with it accordingly, maybe attack. Maybe if they all get killed, the one last one will run away, or in the case of the humans, they might surrender. They will interact with each other as well if they come across each other. So you might see mutants fighting each other, or mutants and humans fighting. You might be able to even use that to your advantage in some situations. So really, we've spent a lot of time to looking at every single system that we've had in the past, and looking at how we can overhaul them or rebuild them in order to make them better and more suited to this new style of gameplay. However, we've also wanted to make sure that we didn't lose anything from previous Metro games that made Metro. Yeah. And we wanted to make sure that we're retaining that feel, so that when players pick up the controller, they immediately know that they're playing a Metro game. Like, it still feels like a Metro game. You still get those claustrophobic moments. You still get those kind of nervous moments when you're walking around a corner. You don't know what's on the other side of the door. You don't know what's behind that bush, inside that car. So it's been a huge priority for us to, while we're trying to do something a little bit new, not stray too far from the familiar, and not stray too far from what has established, this series as what it is.
Building on a very good establishment, right?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I mean,
yeah, and then because I remember it was an open world on the map that we got to play on the Xbox, and it looked amazing, by the way. Yeah, and then I went into this apartment building and got a jump scare almost from one of the new enemies, right? What were you calling them?
that was probably one of the humanimals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool game. So cool. When can we expect a release?
So Metro Exodus is coming out February 22nd, 2019 for Xbox One, PS4, and PC.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John.
Yeah,